Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into a topic that's just everywhere, semaglutide. You hear the name, and I think for a lot of people it immediately signals, weight loss,
Yeah.
maybe even a simple fix.
Right. And that's exactly the idea that the sources our listeners sent, particularly the Dan Hollis Semaglutide Manifesto,
Right.
really push back against. It's way more complicated than just a magic fix.
Okay.
Semaglutide is a powerful tool, there's no doubt. But the key thing is how it changes the brain's approach to hunger, to satisfaction, even reward, and that shift.
hmm
It can feel freeing, absolutely, but also maybe a bit terrifying for some.
So our aim today really is to look past just the number on the scale. We want to explore the deeper human side of managing weight, especially when these new kinds of tools like semaglutide come into the picture. We're talking about the emotional shifts, the psychological stuff, even how your sense of self, your identity can change, things that often get missed in the conversation.
Exactly. And we're going to unpack this core idea from Dan Hollis, the idea that willpower was never the problem. He argues that it's actually our biology, our emotions, those ingrained habit loops, they're all sort of stacked against us.
Right.
And real success, the kind that lasts. Hollis suggests it comes from, insight, having structure, and using tools that actually work with our biology, not against it.
Okay, let's start with hunger. It seems so basic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For ages, we've kind of thought of it as just a biological thing. Your stomach rumbles, maybe blood sugar dips, you need food. Simple.
Yeah, but Dan Hollis really broadens that view. He talks about hunger being layered. There's this quote from him. Emotional hunger sounds like a craving, but it's actually a question, a need asking to be seen.
That's powerful. A need asking to be seen.
It really reframes things, doesn't it? It pushes you from just thinking, what do I want to eat, to asking, what do I really need right now emotionally? Because let's face it, people eat for all sorts of reasons that aren't about physical fuel. Anxiety, feeling lonely, boredom. Oh, absolutely. Or feeling overwhelmed, or maybe just needing comfort when you don't feel supported.
Precisely.
So semaglutide, many people know the brand names, Ozempic, Wegovy. It works as a GLP-1 receptor agonist. Basically, it mimics a hormone our gut naturally produces.
Right, GLP-1.
And that hormone tells your brain you're full, it slows digestion down, it even affects insulin use. So it's not just about feeling less hungry, it's a whole metabolic picture changing.
But Hollis draws a really critical line here. He insists semaglutide isn't a fix for those underlying emotional drivers we just talked about.
Okay.
He calls it a window, or maybe a biological pause. This quieting of the constant physical hunger signals, it gives you a chance maybe for the first time to actually ask, okay, what am I really hungry for?
I see. So the physical noise dials down and you can hear the emotional need underneath.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's vital because if food has been your, let's call it emotional scaffolding, your go-to for comfort, distraction, soothing.
Coping mechanism. Right. When that's suddenly less appealing or less available, you can feel really exposed, like fundamentally unsupported.
So that leads to this idea. Semaglutide isn't the solution to emotional eating. It's the silence that lets you find one. That silence. It might be uncomfortable, maybe even jarring.
Definitely uncomfortable for some, but that's where the real work happens. That's where real change can actually start.
And this connects to another key point from Hollis, doesn't it? About the work after the medication.
Yes, absolutely. He stresses that the real work begins after the medication. Because if you don't address those old emotional patterns, those habits, he warns that the appetite can eventually creep back. Or maybe the emotional triggers just find a new outlet.
So the medication itself isn't the long-term strategy. It's the foundation, maybe.
It's the opportunity. It highlights why building new habits, new ways of coping, new ways of being is so crucial. Habits that can outlast the injections.
So we've talked about the silence, the window it creates for emotional hunger. But what about when the physical changes themselves cause a different kind of challenge? This brings us to something Hollis calls identity disconnection.
Yeah, this is a really fascinating and often difficult part of the process he describes. He suggests that sometimes emotional eating isn't just about coping with feelings, but it can be a symptom of losing touch with who you really are. Food becomes a kind of substitute for a deeper sense of self.
Right. And there's a really striking story in the sources about this, isn't there? From entry #2. The morning her reflection didn't recognize her.
Yes, the story of Adrienne. She's 53. She'd lost a significant amount of weight using semaglutide, quite successfully by external measures. But then there was this moment, really small, mundane almost. She's brushing her teeth.
Just a normal morning routine.
Exactly. She looks up at the mirror and she just doesn't recognize the person looking back. Her face was thinner. Yes, lines were different, sharper. Her eyes felt, as she put it, older and newer somehow. She told Hollis she felt like she didn't belong to her.
Wow. That must have been incredibly disorienting.
Deeply. And Hollis has a specific name for this: identity lag. He says, and this quote really hits home, your body can change faster than your story. And when that happens, the soul gets confused.
The soul gets confused. That captures it perfectly. It's not just about the physical shape changing.
No, not at all. For many people, Hollis argues, the real crisis isn't losing the weight itself. It's what comes after. When the constant food noise quiets down, when the old rituals around eating fade, when that layer of maybe armor drops,
Yeah.
they find themselves feeling unrecognizable, even to themselves. Adrienne wasn't really mourning the lost pounds. She was mourning the version of herself who carried those pounds.
The person she knew how to be.
Exactly. The one who knew how to navigate social situations, maybe using humor, or knew which clothes felt safe, which sweaters covered the most, as the source puts it.
And what stands out is how Dan Hollis responded to her. He didn't jump in with easy answers.
No, quite the opposite. No platitudes like, oh, but you look great, or you should be so proud. He just listened. He held that space for her confusion and grief.
That seems crucial.
It is. And from that listening, he offered this really insightful perspective. The weight loss is just the clearing. The becoming takes longer.
The becoming takes longer, so the physical change is just step one.
Step one of a much deeper process. And so they started this work together, which he described as rewriting the names of things. It sounds a bit abstract, but it was about reframing her internal experience.
How did that work?
Well, for instance, shame wasn't just shame anymore. It became memory, something she carried but didn't define her now. Control wasn't about rigid restriction, but it shifted towards curiosity about her needs. Discipline wasn't forcing herself. It became alignment, finding what truly felt right.
Ah, I see. Changing the internal narrative.
Precisely. And this allowed Adrienne to start tentatively filling that new physical shape, not with old patterns or fear, but with permission. Permission to be in that awkward in-between phase. Permission to not have it all figured out.
And permission to build a new story without having to completely erase the old way.
Exactly. Not burning it down, but integrating it.
And I think this resonates with a lot of people listening. If you've ever had that moment looking in the mirror where the shape feels different, maybe even right by some standard, but the person inside feels lost.
Or like a stranger.
Yeah. Like your reflection isn't quite home yet. You are definitely not alone in that feeling. It's a real, though often unspoken, part of this kind of transformation.
So Hollis's overall framework for navigating this, it really comes down to untangling what he calls signal confusion. Is this physical hunger, or is my anxiety asking for comfort? Is it boredom, or do I need rest?
Learning to read the signals more accurately.
Yes, and learning to observe the cravings without automatically acting on them. To pause and decode. What's this hunger really about? And semaglutide, in his view, provides the crucial time needed for that reflection, that reset, that chance to rewire things.
Which brings us back to that powerful idea you mentioned earlier. You don't hold on to weight loss with discipline. You hold on to it with alignment.
Exactly. It's not about forcing yourself through sheer willpower, which Hollis argues often fails because it fights biology.
Right. It sounds exhausting.
It is. Alignment is about finding a way of eating, moving, and being that feels sustainable and true to you, working with your body's signals, not just suppressing them. It's about changing the underlying story, not just the surface behavior, like swapping a cookie for a carrot stick.
And central to this whole approach is removing the blame, isn't it?
Absolutely. He is adamant. There is no shame here, only process. People aren't broken. They're not lazy. They're often dealing with complex biological factors they were never taught about, plus a culture that constantly sends confusing messages about food and bodies.
So the goal is to reset expectations as much as resetting the body.
Yes. Resetting body and expectations. He frames his work as a conversation, not a prescription, offering tools, understanding, a map perhaps, and importantly, a sense of community.
Which leads to his point about not starting over, but starting right.
Precisely. You're not starting over, you're starting right. Meaning you're finally using tools and approaches that actually align with how your body and brain function, fostering that sense of alignment instead of getting stuck in a cycle of shame and restriction.
So as we bring this deep dive to a close, the invitation for you, the listener, is really to think about what this means personally. If semaglutide is part of your journey or something you're considering, Maybe shift the focus a bit.
Yeah, focus on that window it might create, not solely on the number going down on the scale.
Use that pause.
Use that pause. Ask yourself, okay, beyond the physical hunger, what am I truly hungry for? What parts of my life need support now that food isn't automatically filling that role?
It's definitely not a miracle pill in the simple sense.
No. But it can be, perhaps, a miracle pause, a chance to really listen.
A chance to choose differently. And to remember, as Hollis emphasizes, healing that deeper emotional hunger. Well, it takes empathy for yourself, not judgment. It takes awareness, not just more rules.
And curiosity about your own needs, not self-punishment.
So we'll leave you with this thought to mull over, drawn from Hollis's perspective.
When the cravings stop, the truth begins.